are back in action, Long Gone Heroes.
Long Gone Heroes.
And I know it's dropping September 20th. It looks very, very exciting. What drew you to this role, and what aspects of this character's personality or backstory did you
Yeah.
find most intriguing to explore?
Well, it's interesting. A couple things. Frank Grillo, who's one of our leads in the film. Him and I had done a film earlier that year. And we hit it off so wonderfully. Another film called Lights Out, and that came out earlier this year. And we hit it off so well that he just gave me a call one day and said, "Look, Mekhi, I'm getting ready to start this movie. This is another great role. Except in this one, we won't be friends. We're going to be adversaries, and you're actually going to be gunning for me, and trying to come after me." And so that was one aspect. The script was great, and it was totally different than what I played with Frank before, because we're on the opposite sides of the spectrum. And then also too, it gave me a chance to play someone who was not so redeeming in his qualities. I think some would call it a bad guy. People always ask me, "Do you like to play good guys or bad guys?" I play neither. I play people who have made certain choices that are secure and living with those choices. And it's up to the audience to choose whether they are good or bad or justified, whether you empathize or have disdain for this character. But it's up to you. But I feel like he's moving in a certain righteous path. He does some things that I don't think most people would agree with. But that was one thing that intrigued me to the role. And plus I got to play with a lot of guns and stuff.
Now, on that note, okay, so speaking of that, did you have to do anything special, outside of playing with the guns, train with the guns, anything special to prepare
Um,
physically or mentally to portray this character?
well, yeah, I mean, there were certain things. I mean, there's a couple of big like fight scenes, things like that, that had to sort of train for and choreograph for, things like that. As far as gun, I've been doing this for over 3 decades, and so I've dealt with guns, in a lot of different films and things like that. So that wasn't really a big deal. But no, nothing too crazy out of the ordinary. It was just standard. Certain things were standard and was easy to just fall right in.
Right on. So
Hmm.
obviously, this film tackles themes of loyalty, corruption, and the
Hmm.
cost of combat. How does
Right.
your character's journey in the story reflect these themes? And what do you think audiences will connect with in his character?
Well, obviously we're in an election year. There's a couple of wars going on. We got the Middle East. We got, obviously Russia and Ukraine going through what they're going through. So there's a lot going on in the world, and I think that this film speaks to sort of that sort of chaotic sort of involvement in this world, in the political world. Um, being that the film is takes place in Venezuela, and even though we shot in Puerto Rico and in Colombia and Bogota, which were two great places. But it definitely speaks to the climate of the world, and sort of the chaotic things that can happen, not just in the U.S. but outside the U.S. So it definitely speaks to radicalism and narco involvement and government corruption and
And
all of those
blackmail.
blackmail, all of that kind of stuff, and governmental red tape, and things that are holding up certain processes that need to go through. It definitely involves Congress and the government, so it has all of that. But we still try to make a fun Saturday night movie that you can just jump right in, you get it, and you're intrigued by it. You want to see who lives, who dies, who gets rescued, who's a martyr. and so we have all of those aspects.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, this Long Gone Heroes features a dynamic cast, like you said, Frank. We have Josh,
Yeah.
Andy Garcia, the icon.
Hmm.
How did the team, this team dynamic on set influence the portrayal of your characters' relationships?
Well, each particular film, television show, whatever you're part of, is always a different experience. I know I had always wanted to work with Andy Garcia, so we got to have quite a few great scenes together, because I'm kind of his right hand man in this film. Josh Hutcherson, I've been following his career since the Hunger Games with Jennifer Lawrence, and all of those people. And he's a great guy, and actually he's a fluent Spanish speaker, which you wouldn't think so. I mean, this guy was translating for me like nobody's business, and I needed him. He was awesome. Because I mean, I know different words. I grew up in Harlem, and so we had Spanish Harlem, and so I grew up around a lot of Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Cubans, things like that. And I've always picked up certain things, but to be fluent in it, Josh is that guy. But really, it's about the company you keep. At a certain point in one's career, you start to sort of put another notch in the belt. And then there's certain people that really excite you when their names come up. And I had never worked with Andy Garcia before, and or Josh, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, this is a really good cast that's forming, and really good people, and I get to go to these different great places and have a good time doing it. So that's part of the reason why I chose to be a part of this, and that they asked.
Let me ask you this. What are some of your characters' personal motivations? I mean, what drives him as this story unfolds?
Well, when I play a mercenary, so a lot of times mercenaries, at least from what I've my research, they've worked for some form of government, whether it's Army, Navy, Marines, Black Ops, Navy SEAL, something that they've dedicated their lives to. And a lot of times, sometimes people, whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're in the military, especially when you have to do all of these different sort of covert Black Ops type of missions, um, and you think you're helping secure the world, and you are. But then at some point, sometimes people go rogue and they say, "Wait a minute, I want to be compensated for all this work that I've put in. I want to be able to retire with a great retirement fund after all the people that I've seen hurt, killed, that I've protected, all of that kind of stuff. I want to be able to retire and sit on a beach in Tahiti one day with a nice fat bank account and, sip Mai Tais and wear flip flops. So, I think that's part of the motivation for any mercenary, is to create a better life for themselves, as they have, found maybe that they, weren't as appreciated in compensation or respect or recognition, as they deemed that they deserved. When you look at the state of people in the VA hospitals, and the government's denying certain treatments or not acknowledging certain ailments and things like that, that can become a frustrating thing for a soldier who's he or she has dedicated their lives to protecting the freedoms of America, or in any country for that matter, or any nation. And then they want what's theirs, what they feel like they have coming. And I think that that's what is part of the motivation for my character in this. Yeah, it does have hints of what's going on today in the political arena and all that kind of stuff, the cover-ups, the hushes, and the behind the scenes nefarious acts and things like that. But more so, it's just a fun, entertaining film that it keeps you on the edge of your seat. There's good action, great dialogue, really good acting, great direction. But it's just a fun movie that you can just sit home. You don't have to rack your brain thinking about it. You get it. You're in there, and you're thrust into this adrenaline rush of a world, and I think it's one of those type of things that films are made for. It's made to let you take 2 hours and escape to somewhere else that you could imagine yourself at. And what would you do under these circumstances?
Very good. Mr. Mekhi Phifer, that's my time. Thank you so much, sir, to speak with you. The
My
legend
pleasure.
Mekhi Phifer. Thank you, sir.
No, the
Have
pleasure is all mine. Thank
a
you.
have a great rest of your day.
Have a great one.